The bag of money I picked in Ojota changed everything. I killed a man 3 months ago, and nobody knows about it except God and the ghost that visits me every night at 3 a.m. Wait, let me back up. That's not how this story starts, but that's where it ends. And if you are reading this, it means I finally found the courage to tell someone what really happened that evening in Ojota when I picked up that cursed bag of money. My name is Emeka. I'm 28. And I used to sell phone accessories at Computer Village before everything went to hell. Used to think the worst thing that could happen to me was another fuel scarcity or NEPA taking light for 2 weeks straight. Boy, was I wrong. It was a Tuesday in June. You know how Ojota gets around 7 p.m. Pure chaos. Damn fools honking like their lives depend on it. Conductors screaming, Oshodi, Oshodi, until their voices crack. And that thick Lagos air that tastes like exhaust fumes and broken dreams. I had just finished counting my sales for the day. 8,500 naira. Not bad, but not great either. Enough to send something to Mama in Aba and still eat rice and stew for the rest of the week. I was walking toward the bus stop, earphones in, trying to drown out the noise with some Burna Boy, when I saw it. A black leather bag. Just sitting there beside a broken streetlight like someone had forgotten it during their evening rush. Now, I'm not stupid. 28 years in Lagos teaches you that free things aren't really free. But something about this bag called to me. Maybe it was the way the dying sunlight hit the leather, or maybe it was desperation talking. My rent was due in 5 days, and my landlord, Oga Johnson, had already started giving me those looks that meant, pack your load before I call area boys. I looked around. Nobody was watching it. Nobody seemed to care. So I picked it up. The weight surprised me. Heavy, but not laptop heavy. More like books or bundles of something. My heart started doing that thing where it pounds so hard you can hear it in your ears. I didn't open it right there. I'm not crazy. Instead, I carried it like it belonged to me, walking casual-like toward the bus stop. But my hands were shaking, and I kept looking over my shoulder like someone was about to tap me and say, "Oh yeah, drop that bag." My one-room apartment in Mushin has seen better days. The paint peels like dandruff, and the ceiling has a brown stain that looks suspiciously like the map of Africa. But it's mine, and the door has 3 locks because Lagos taught me paranoia is just good sense. I sat on my bed, staring at the bag for a good 10 minutes before I found the courage to unzip it. Jesus Christ. Money, bundles and bundles of crisp 1,000 naira notes wrapped in bank bands. My hands trembled as I pulled out the first bundle, then the second, then the third. I stopped counting at bundle number 15 because my brain couldn't process what I was seeing. There had to be at least 2 million naira in that bag, maybe more. I've never held that much money in my life. Hell, I've never even seen that much money outside of a bank. The notes smelled new, like they had just come fresh from the mint. No wear, no folding, no smell of hands and pockets and transaction. For the first time in months, I cried. Not sad tears, happy tears, relief tears. The kind of tears that come when you realize you might actually survive another month in this city that chews people up and spits them out like bitter cola. I spread the money on my bed and took a picture. Then I deleted it immediately because what if someone hacked my phone? What if the police searched it? What if... That's when the paranoia started creeping in. Who carries 2 million naira in a bag and just leaves it beside the street light in Ojota? Drug dealers? Politicians? Yahoo boys who hit a big score? Kidnappers who just collected ransom? I tried to convince myself it didn't matter. Finders keepers, right? God helps those who help themselves. Maybe this was my breakthrough, my own personal testimony. Hadn't I been praying for a miracle just last Sunday at Mountain of Fire? But as I lay in bed that night, staring at the money pile beside me, questions kept multiplying like mosquitoes in the rainy season. What if whoever owned this money was looking for it? What if they had ways of finding people that the police don't have? What if this wasn't a blessing, but a trap? I barely slept. Every sound outside made me jump. Every car that drove past felt like it was slowing down to check my building. Even the usual night sounds of mushing, generators humming, couples arguing, someone playing loud music, felt different, threatening. At 3 a.m., I heard footsteps in the corridor outside my door. Slow, deliberate footsteps, like someone was counting doors. I held my breath and listened. The footsteps stopped right outside my door. And silence. I waited for 20 minutes before I dared to move. When I finally crept to the door and looked through the peephole, the corridor was empty. But I swear I could smell cigarette smoke. Morning came like a slap. I woke up to my phone ringing. My boss at Computer Village asking why I wasn't at work yet. For a moment, I had forgotten about the money. Then I saw the bundles on my bed, and everything rushed back. I called in sick. First time in 2 years. Instead of going to work, I spent the morning researching. How long before missing money gets reported? How do banks track stolen cash? Can 1,000 naira notes be traced? The internet gave me more questions than answers. By afternoon, I had convinced myself I was being ridiculous. Maybe someone just dropped their savings. Maybe they were too embarrassed to report it. Maybe they had already written it off as lost. I decided to test the waters. Small amounts first. I took one bundle, 50,000 naira, and went to the market in Alaba. Bought myself new clothes for the first time in 8 months. A proper shirt, not one of those China clothes that fade after 2 washes. Good shoes, jeans that actually fit. The trader didn't ask questions when I paid cash. Nobody ever does in Lagos. Cash is king, and questions are for people who have the luxury of being suspicious. Walking back home with my new clothes, I felt like a different person. Like someone who mattered. Like someone who could afford to hold his head high in this city that usually keeps your neck bent with its weight. That feeling lasted exactly until I turned onto my street and saw the black SUV parked outside my building. My blood turned to ice water. The SUV was a Prado, tinted windows, Lagos government plates. 2 men sat in the front seats, and even through the tint, I could see that they were watching my building. I didn't go home. Instead, I kept walking, heart hammering like palm wine drum, trying to look casual while my entire world was crumbling in my chest. They had found me. Somehow, some way, they had tracked that money to me. I spent the next 3 hours wandering the streets of Mushin, taking random turns, ducking into shops, trying to see if anyone was following me. By the time I finally worked up the courage to go back to my street, the SUV was gone. But the message was clear. We know where you live. I couldn't stay in my apartment. The money felt radioactive now, like it was burning through my mattress and into the floor below. Every shadow outside my window looked like a person watching. Every sound could be footsteps on the stairs. I was living in a movie, except this wasn't entertainment. This was my life, and the credits might roll with my name in the obituary section of Punch newspaper. By 5 p.m., I had made my decision. I was going to return the money. All of it. Whatever game these people were playing, I didn't want any part of it. Better to be broke and alive than rich and dead in a Lagos gutter. But first, I had to know who I was dealing with. Ojota Motor Park at 6 p.m. is like stepping into the mouth of Lagos itself. Buses belching black smoke, traders shouting prices for everything from groundnut to phone cards, and that constant hum of 10 million people trying to get somewhere else. I arrived early, clutching my school bag like a life jacket in a storm. The money was all there, every single note I could find. I had even added my own 50,000 naira from the bundle I'd spent, borrowed from Chinedu with some story about emergency family contributions. I positioned myself near the BRT station where I could see everyone coming and going. My plan was simple. Spot them first, approach carefully, hand over the bag, apologize profusely, and pray they let me walk away with all my body parts intact. At exactly 6 p.m., I saw him. Tall guy, probably Yoruba, wearing a simple polo shirt and jeans. Nothing flashy, nothing that screamed dangerous. But his eyes swept the crowd like a hawk looking for prey. When they landed on me, I felt my knees go weak.
He walked straight toward me, no hesitation, like he had seen my picture in a file somewhere. "You came," he said when he reached me. His voice was calm, almost friendly. Lagos accent mixed with something else, maybe Ibadan. "I brought everything back," I said, holding out the bag with shaking hands. "Everything. I even added extra. I'm sorry, I didn't know." He held up a hand to stop me. Then he smiled. And that smile scared me more than any threat could have. "Walk with me," he said. We walked toward the bridge, away from the crowd. With every step, I felt like I was walking toward my own grave. But what choice did I have? Run? Where? This is Lagos. If these people wanted to find me, they would find me. "My name is Kunle," he said as we reached a quieter spot overlooking the lagoon. "And that money you found, it wasn't lost." My heart stopped. It was bait. The world tilted sideways. Bait, we've been watching you for months, Emeka. You and about 20 other young men around Lagos. Small traders, hustlers, people struggling to make it. He leaned against the railing, casual as if we were discussing football scores. We needed to know which of you had the right character for what? Tell me, what did you do when you found the money? I stared at him, confused. I took it home, counted it, and then I spent some of it, but I brought it all back, I swear. But you came back, he interrupted. When we sent those messages, you could have run, could have kept the money and disappeared. Instead, you came to return it. I didn't understand where this was going, but the knot in my stomach was getting tighter. Emeka, how would you like to make more money than you've ever dreamed of? Legal money, clean money. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a business card. Plain white, simple black text. Titan Security Solutions. We are a private security company. We handle sensitive situations for important people. Politicians, businessmen, oil executives, people who need protection but can't always trust the police. I looked at the card, then at him. You want me to be security? Brother, I'm not built for... Not muscle, he said, cutting me off. Intelligence. You see, in our line of work, we sometimes need people who can blend in. People who look ordinary, unremarkable. People who can go places and see things without raising suspicion. You mean like spying? I mean like earning 500,000 naira a month for very simple jobs. My mouth dried up. 500,000. That was more than I made in 6 months selling phone charges. What kind of jobs? Kunle smiled again, and this time it almost looked genuine. Mostly just watching people, following them, taking pictures, recording conversations. Nothing violent, nothing illegal. Just, information gathering. And if I say no, then you go home, forget this conversation ever happened, and continue your life as before. No pressure, no consequences. He paused. But Emeka, opportunities like this don't come twice in Lagos, and I have a feeling you are tired of just surviving. And he wasn't wrong. I was exhausted from the daily grind, from counting every naira, from watching other people drive past in cars I could never afford while I waited for buses that might not come. I need time to think, I said. Of course. Take 3 days. If you're interested, call the number on the card. If not, throw it away and pretend we never met. He started to walk away, then turned back. Oh, and Emeka, the fact that you returned the money tells me you have integrity. In our business, that's rarer than crude oil. Those 3 days were the longest of my life. I researched everything I could about Titan Security Solutions. Their website looked legitimate. Corporate clients, testimonials, proper registration papers. They even had an office in Victoria Island. But something felt off. The testimonials were too perfect, too polished. The registration was recent, less than 2 years old. And when I tried to find news articles or references to their work, I came up empty. I called my uncle Ochekuku, the one who works for the police in Abuja. Couldn't tell him the whole story, but I asked general questions about private security companies. Emeka, why are you asking about such things? These companies, some are legitimate, but others, they do things that police cannot do, things that government cannot officially approve. Like what? Like making problems disappear. Like finding information that people don't want to give. Like ensuring certain outcomes in business deals. His voice got serious. My son, if someone is offering you work with a security company, be very careful. Not all money is good money. But 500,000 naira, bros. That's life-changing money. That's move to a better area money. That's send mama to private hospital money. That's finally feel like a human being in this city money. On the third night, I called the number. Kunle met me at a restaurant in Ikeja the next evening. Proper restaurant, not the usual buka where I ate. The kind of place that they give you real napkins and the meat in your rice actually looks like meat. I knew you'd call, he said, shaking my hand like we were old friends. He slid an envelope across the table. Your first job, simple surveillance. There's a man named Chief Adebayo who's been having some business disagreements with our client. We need to know his daily routine, where he goes, who he meets, what he does. I opened the envelope. There was a picture of a man in his 50s, well-dressed, the kind of big belly that comes from years of good eating. There was also an address in Lekki and 100,000 naira in cash. Advance payment, Kunle explained. Follow him for 1 week. Take notes, photos if possible. Don't let him see you. Report back to me every evening. That's it? That's it. Simple, right? It seemed too easy, too clean. But the money in my hands felt real enough. What happens after I give you the information? Our client handles his business disagreement accordingly, not your concern. Looking back now, I should have asked more questions, should have demanded to know who the client was, what kind of business disagreement needed surveillance, why they couldn't just hire professional investigators. But I was hungry, and hunger makes you stupid in ways that intelligence can't fix. When do I start? Tomorrow. Chief Adebayo lived in one of those Lekki compounds where the gate alone cost more than my annual rent. Big house, multiple cars, garden that probably had its own gardener's gardener. Following him was easier than I expected. Rich men have routines, and Chief was no exception. Every morning at 8 a.m., his driver picked him up in a white Lexus. First stop, his office in Victoria Island. Some kind of import-export business. Lunch at 1 p.m., always at the same upscale restaurant in Ikoyi, where they probably charge 10,000 naira for rice and chicken. Afternoons were for meetings. I watched them shake hands with other big men, watched them laugh over drinks that cost more than my daily meals, watched them make deals that probably affected thousands of people they would never meet. I took pictures, made notes, documented everything like I was writing a biography. For 6 days, everything was routine, boring even. Then came day 7. It was a Thursday evening. Instead of going home or visiting his girlfriend, Chief Adebayo's driver took him to a warehouse in Apapa, industrial area, the kind of place where trucks come to die and business gets done in shadows. I followed at a distance, parking my Okada far enough away that they wouldn't notice, but close enough that I could see. 3 black SUVs were already waiting at the warehouse. Expensive cars, government plates, the kind of convoy that usually means either very important people or very dangerous people. Chief got out of his Lexus and walked toward the warehouse entrance. Even from my hiding pot, I could see he was nervous. His usual confident stride was gone, replaced by the hesitant steps of a man walking into a trap. I raised my camera and started taking pictures. That's when I saw Kunle step out of one of the SUVs. My blood froze. Kunle wasn't just a security consultant gathering information. He was part of whatever was happening in that warehouse. And Chief Adebayo wasn't a subject of surveillance. He was prey walking into a web I had helped weave. I should have left. Should have jumped on my Okada and ride straight back to Mushin, packed my things and caught the next bus to Aba. Should have hidden in my village until this whole thing blew over. But I couldn't move. It was like watching a Nollywood movie, except the blood would be real and the screams wouldn't stop when the director yelled "Cut" through my camera lens. I watched Kunle approach Chief Adebayo. They shook hands like old friends, but I could see the tension in Chief's shoulders, the way he kept glancing toward his car like he was calculating escape routes. They talked for a minute. I couldn't hear what they were saying, but body language speaks louder than words. Kunle was relaxed, confident. Chief was scared. Then 2 more men emerged from the warehouse. Big men, the kind that solve problems with their hands instead of their mouths. That's when Chief tried to run.
He made it maybe 10 steps before they caught him. No dramatic chase, no movie heroics. Just 3 men grabbing one man and dragging him toward the warehouse entrance, while he shouted words I couldn't hear over the distance and the sound of trucks on the nearby expressway. I kept taking pictures. My hands were shaking so hard I was surprised any of them came out clear. But I couldn't stop. Something told me these images might be the only thing keeping me alive. They disappeared into the warehouse. 20 minutes later, only Kunle and his men came out.
Chief Adebayo's legs are sat in that parking lot until morning, when a tow truck came and took it away. I didn't sleep for 3 days. Couldn't eat. Chinedu was getting worried, asking if I needed to see a doctor, if maybe I should go home to Aba for a while. I wanted to tell him everything, but how do you explain to someone that you might have just witnessed a murder? That you might be next? On the 4th day, Conle called. "Excellent work on the surveillance," he said, like we were discussing a successful business presentation. "Our client was very pleased with the information you provided." "Where is Chief Adebayo?" I asked, before I could stop myself. Silence on the other end. Then, "Chief Adebayo is no longer our concern. Or yours." Did something happen to him? Emeka, in this business, the less you know, the safer you are. Focus on the fact that you've earned your money and proven yourself valuable. I don't want to do this anymore. Another pause. Longer this time. I understand the first job can be overwhelming. Take a week to think about it. But remember, you've seen how we operate now. You are part of the family, whether you like it or not. The line went dead. That night, sitting in Tinedu's living room while he slept, I finally understood what had happened. The bag of money in Ojota wasn't random. It wasn't luck. It was a recruitment test. They had been watching me for months, learning my routine, my financial situation, my desperation level. They knew exactly what kind of bait would hook me, and they knew exactly how much pressure to apply to keep me on the line. I had been selected, groomed, manipulated into becoming an accessory to whatever happened to Chief Adebayo in that warehouse. And now, I knew too much to simply walk away. I spent the next week researching Chief Adebayo, found his obituary in this day newspaper. Prominent businessman dies in car accident on Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. No mention of the warehouse, no mention of the real circumstances. Just another Nigerian big man who died in a tragic accident. His family was grieving a lie. And I was the one who had made that lie possible. The guilt was eating me alive. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Chief trying to run, saw those big men dragging him into the darkness. Every time I tried to eat, I tasted ashes. I made a decision that probably saved my life and definitely damned my soul. I called Conle back. I told him. But I want 750,000 naira a month, and I want to know exactly what I'm getting into. He laughed. I knew you'd come around. Smart boy. Meet me tomorrow. 6 months. That's how long I worked for Titan Security Solutions before everything went completely to hell. 6 surveillance jobs, 6 business disagreements that got resolved. 6 families that probably still don't know what really happened to their sons, husbands, fathers. I told myself I was just gathering information, that whatever happened after I submitted my report wasn't my responsibility, that I was just a photographer, a note taker, a professional observer. But we all know that's bullshit, don't we? By December, I had over 3 million naira saved up, moved to a proper flat in Yaba, bought a car, nothing flashy, just a clean Toyota Corolla that started every morning, sent enough money home that Mama could finally fix the roof and buy a new generator. For the first time in my adult life, I wasn't worried about tomorrow, but the nightmares were getting worse. Every night at 3 a.m., I would wake up to the sound of footsteps outside my door. Every morning, I would check the locks 3 times before leaving for whatever job Kunle had assigned me. I was living like a king and sleeping like a criminal, because that's what I was, a criminal, an accessory to murder, dressed up in nice clothes and driving a clean car. The job that broke me came in January. Simple surveillance, Kunle said, handing me the usual envelope. University students, Unilag. Someone has been asking too many questions about things that don't concern them. I opened the envelope and saw a photograph. A girl, maybe 22, 23 years old, pretty smile, intelligent eyes, wearing a university ID badge, the kind of girl that looked like she still believed the world was good, like she still thought justice mattered. Her name was Chioma Oku, mass communication student. According to the file, she had been investigating missing persons cases around Lagos for her final year project. What questions has she been asking? About people who disappear without explanation. People whose families never get real answers. She's gotten too close to some sensitive information. I stared at the photograph. This girl looked like she could be my sister. Could be any of our sisters. Kunle, she's just a student, a child. She's a problem that needs to be solved. I can't do this one. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. Kunle's friendly mask slipped for just a moment and I saw something cold and deadly underneath. Emeka, you don't understand. This is not a request. This is your job. You've been paid well, you've lived well, and now you do what needs to be done. And if I refuse? Then you become a problem that needs to be solved. I took the job. What choice had I? But as I followed Chioma around campus, watching her attend lectures, take notes, meet friends at the cafeteria, something inside me started breaking apart. She was working on a story about 12 missing people. 12 families who had lost someone and never gotten answers. 12 lives that had been snuffed out for business disagreements, or because they had asked the wrong questions, or because they had simply been in the wrong place at the wrong time. I realized I probably had information about at least half of those missing people. Pictures I had taken, reports I had written, surveillance that led to their disappearance. On the 4th day of watching her, Chioma did something that shattered what was left of my conscience. She visited a family in Ageji, an old woman whose son had gone missing 3 months ago. I watched through my camera as Chioma held her hands, listened to her cry, promised her that she would find answers. The missing son was Tunde Okafo. I had surveilled him in November. He was target number 4. I had literally watched him walk into the same warehouse where Chief Adebayo had disappeared. I have pictures of his last moments of freedom, and I did nothing to warn him. That night, I called Chioma from a hidden number. Stop digging. Stop asking questions. Your life depends on it. Who is this? How did you...
You get this number. Someone who knows what you're investigating. Someone who knows how dangerous it is. Please just stop. But I could hear it in her voice. She wasn't going to stop. She was too young, too idealistic, too convinced that truth and justice mattered in a place like Lagos. She was going to keep digging until she dug her own grave. It happened on a Friday night in February. I was supposed to submit my final report on Chioma the next morning. Instead, I sent her a message from a banner phone, telling her to meet me at a restaurant in Surulere. Told her I had information about the missing people she was investigating. She came alone, just like I knew she would. Young people always think they are invincible. But I wasn't the only one watching her anymore. As we sat in that restaurant, as I tried to explain to her how much danger she was in, I saw them. 2 of Kunle's men, sitting at a table near the entrance, watching, waiting. They had been following me, making sure I wasn't getting ideas about betraying the company. Chioma listened to everything I told her, about Titan security, about the surveillance jobs, about the people who had disappeared after I had tracked their movements. "You have to help me expose them," she said, when I finished. "You have evidence, pictures, reports. We can take this to the authorities." "Which authorities?" I laughed bitterly. "Half the police in Lagos are probably on their payroll. The other half don't want to know." "Then we'll find someone who will listen. A journalist, a human rights lawyer, someone." That's when I saw Kunle himself walk into the restaurant. Our eyes met across the room. He smiled and raised his glass in a mock toast. The message was clear. End this conversation, or we end both of you. "Chioma," I said quietly, "we need to leave now." "Why? What's now?" I grabbed her hand and pulled her toward the back exit, hoping against hope that there wasn't already someone waiting for us there. There was. 2 men in the alley behind the restaurant. Big men with the kind of faces that I've seen too much violence to be shocked by more. Chioma screamed. That's when everything went to hell. The details are blurry now. Trauma has a way of making memory selective, protecting you from the worst parts, while making sure you never forget that they happened. I remember the sound of Chioma's scream cutting through the Lagos night air. I remember one of the men reaching for something under his jacket. I remember the broken bottle I grabbed from the ground near the restaurant's dumpster. I remember the wet sound it made when it connected with his throat. I remember the way he fell, surprised, like he couldn't believe this skinny phone charger seller had just opened his neck. I remember Chioma vomiting on the ground as his partner turned to run. I remember Kunle appearing at the mouth of the alley, looking at the mess I had made, shaking his head like a disappointed father. "Well," he said, stepping over the body, "this complicates things." They cleaned it up. Of course they did. The dead man became another Lagos statistic. Armed robber killed during a robbery gone wrong. His family probably got a small settlement and a story about how his son died fighting criminals. Chioma disappeared that night. Not dead, Kunle assured me of that, but relocated. New identity, new life, far away from Lagos and her investigation. "Consider it a mercy," he told me the next day. She could have joined her research subjects permanently. I never saw her again. Don't even know if she's still alive. But I see her face every night at 3 a.m., along with all the others. It's been 3 months since that night in the alley. 3 months since I became a killer. 3 months since I learned that there are worse things than being poor in Lagos. I quit Titan security the next day. Told Kunle I was done, that I wanted out. He didn't try to stop me. Maybe he figured I was too broken to be useful anymore. Maybe he knew I would never talk, because talking would mean admitting my own guilt. Or maybe he just didn't care, because there are always more desperate young men in Lagos. Always more people willing to trade their souls for survivor. I gave away most of the money. Sent it to different charities, different churches, different families who needed it more than I did. Kept just enough to pay my rent and eat simple meals. Went back to selling phone accessories at Computer Village. Back to counting small change and worrying about tomorrow. But the nightmares followed me.
Every night at 3 a.m., I wake up to footsteps in the corridor. Sometimes it's the man I killed. Sometimes it's Chief Adibayo asking me why I didn't save her family from their grief. They never say anything. They just stand there, reminding me of what I have become.
I'm writing this because I can't carry it alone anymore. Because somewhere in Lagos, there are families still waiting for sons and daughters who will never come home. Because there are young men right now, hungry and desperate, who might pick up bags of money that aren't really lost. Because Titan Security Solutions is still out there, still recruiting, still turning good people into monsters. If you're reading this and you recognize the signs, if someone offers you easy money for simple jobs, if they test your character with miraculous finds, if they slowly pull you into darker and darker work, run. Run, like your soul depends on it. Because mine is already lost. I know some of you are probably thinking this is creative writing, that nobody would actually confess to murder on Reddit. Maybe you are right to be skeptical. Maybe you should be. But tomorrow night, when you hear footsteps outside your door at 3 a.m., when you see shadows moving where no shadows should be, remember that some stories are true even when they sound impossible. And if you ever find yourself in Ojota, walking past broken streetlights and seeing something that looks too good to be true lying on the ground, keep walking. Some miracles are curses in disguise. Some blessings cost more than you can afford to pay. And some bags of money are worth less than the soul you lose picking them up. The irony isn't lost on me. I did everything they asked, followed their rules, played their game, survived when others didn't. And for what? Now I'm back where I started, broke, afraid, selling phone chargers to people who don't really see me. Except now, I'm also a killer, carrying ghosts. The money didn't change my life. It revealed who I really was when survival was on the line. Turns out I'm the kind of person who can look at a dead man's blood on his hands and ask, what's next? Instead of, how do I live with this? Maybe that's the most terrifying truth of all. Maybe Kule was right when he said I had the right character for the job. Maybe the bag of money in Ojota didn't change me. Maybe it just showed me who I was when the mask came off. If you work for Titan Security Solutions and you are reading this, know that I have copies of everything, every photo, every report, every detail of every job I did for you. They are hidden where you will never find them, with instructions to be released if anything happens to me. I'm not a threat to you anymore. I just want to be left alone to live with what I've done. But if you come for me, if you decide I know too much, if you think making me disappear will solve your problems, remember that dead men sometimes leave behind more problems than living ones. To the families of the missing, I'm sorry. I know that doesn't bring them back, doesn't ease your pain, doesn't give you the closure you deserve. But I'm sorry.
To Chiuma, wherever you are, I hope you found peace. I hope you stopped asking questions that could get you killed. I hope you're living a quiet life somewhere far from Lagos, where the only shadows are cast by trees and clouds. To anyone reading this who thinks they might want to walk the path I walked, don't. Money doesn't solve your problems. It just gives you more expensive ways to destroy yourself. And to that bag of money in Ojota, you did exactly what you were designed to do. You found someone desperate enough to pick you up, naive enough to think you were a gift, and weak enough to keep you even when the price became clear. You changed everything, all right? You changed the phone charger seller into a killer. You changed a dreamer into a nightmare. You changed a human being into something else entirely. I hope you're satisfied. The footsteps are getting louder tonight. If something happens to me, if I don't post again, remember this story. Remember that in Lagos, even miracles have teeth. And remember, not every bag you find in the street is meant to be picked up.